Well, I have great news for you all this week. My camera decided to stop working properly this afternoon, and I still have not been able to figure out what's going on with it. So for this week, you will get to only have to hear me instead of hear me and watch me. But getting into the question, the security of the sites that we work on should be a top priority for us as developers. It seems like pretty much every week, if not every day sometimes, I hear about another security incident, whether it's a website or server breach, unauthorized access of a network, data leaks, and the list can go on. There are a ton of different threats that we as developers need to be aware of and able to combat with the code that we write, the configuration that we set. Matter of fact, there was an instance recently that I actually ended up helping with where another development team had simply not kept the site updated. A little thing like that allowed a breach that then put a lot of customer and order data at risk. Basically, it ended up being anything that was accessible in the admin panel could have been up for grabs. Very bad situation, simply because the site had not been kept up to date. Something that's very simple, very easy to do, and yet crucial to making sure that our sites are secure. Now, before we go through the question, I wanted to mention that we have resources that cover several facets of site security on SwiftOtter.com. So make sure you check those out. There's stuff there that could help you as you make different decisions, just day-to-day work on making sure that your site, the code that you're writing, is safe and secure and isn't going to allow threats to cause a breach in your site. So now let's take a look at the question that we have. You are developing a custom module in Magento 2 that exposes a secure API endpoint to provide customers with access to their banking details, such as account numbers and routing information. Only authenticated customers should be able to view their own banking details through this API. You've defined the following route in webapi.xml for your custom banking module. And we have the little code snippet here. It's going to be the banking route with the customer ID, a GET request, again just to grab those banking details. So the question, which resource reference should you assign to ensure that only the logged in customer can access their own banking details? And here are the different options. Option A, we have the Magento Customer Manage reference. Option B, the Magento Customer All reference. And option C, the Self reference. So again, an API endpoint, and we need to make a decision on what resource reference to use. And really, this is something that in some situations can be quite the complex problem. If we don't provide enough access, we have unhappy clients that can't do their jobs. But again, if we provide too much access, we are opening the door for threats, or even just allowing someone else's data to be seen by an innocent third party. Even if it's not necessarily an active threat, we still obviously do not want other customers being able to see or access another customer's data. So let's discuss the different options. For option A, the Magento Customer Manage reference, this is actually specific to managing customer accounts from the admin. It's not for providing individual customers access to their resources. So this is not going to work for our use case. For option B, the Magento Customer All reference, this would actually be a major security risk. Basically, kind of as the name implies, this is allowing access to all customers' data. So we could have one customer viewing another customer's banking information, or really any other data that is available in that API endpoint, that request. Because obviously, sometimes we have additional data getting passed through there. There's an endpoint I was working on recently where not only was it some customer data, or specifically some customer banking data, but also some customer identification information and some other payment information with that. All of that, if I had used this Magento Customer All reference, would have been available to all the different customers using that endpoint. So that is going to be incorrect as well. So finally, option C, which is the self reference. Now this is set up in Magento so that it only allows access to the current authorized customer's data. Basically, for a customer to successfully pull data from an endpoint that is utilizing this reference, they're going to need to be logged in and have a valid session or token. That's going to be the only way they gain access to this request data. And obviously, from the perspective of the question, this is exactly what we are looking for. We want to make sure that our endpoint can only be accessed by a logged in customer only viewing their specific data. So we're going to mark option C as correct. We're going to use that self-resource reference, and that's going to again ensure that no other customers or unauthorized individuals are going to be able to access data that is not theirs. And your site will stay secure. You'll have happy clients, they will have happy customers, and you will be able to sleep well at night. And again, just to reiterate, there are plenty of threats out there. There are so many different vectors of attack nowadays. Again, there's always a new approach, a new threat that we need to be aware of and combat. So it's important that we stay at the top of our game, that we're paying attention, making sure that we're following best practices, which really in many instances are there. They are put in place to keep things safe, make sure that stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. So following those best practices, following what Magento recommends in our case, and making sure that as developers we are ensuring that our clients and their customers and all of that data involved are secure. Thanks for watching.